Hello.
Hello.
Good
Hello.
evening. How's it
Good
going,
evening.
guys?
Good evening from Half Connect.
You're quite the wordsmith, Vincenzo.
Am I not?
Yeah.
I put a
Score
dinosaur in the
disconnect.
chat. Ooh.
Yeah. Score partially connect.
The score, where is everybody? That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Jolene. Good to see you. See
Hello,
you.
Jolene.
Words. See you. Yeah, sorry, we're threadbare again, guys. Mike is unwell. Ale and Michael are both too busy and important. So you're left with the
dregs.
The dregs.
Yeah.
Cheers.
The next three best things after those guys.
I speak for myself, guys. I wouldn't dare of calling either of you the dregs.
Oh, actually, hold on a second. I just realized something. I can make things beautiful, maybe, perhaps not. Let me see. Sorry. Let me just quickly arrange
Leave that
something.
with you,
We'll
Chenzo.
remain in silence while you look for beautiful things.
There you go.
Actually,
Let there
hang on.
be light.
You know
do the same thing.
you're both blurred, so all you see is this kind of humming light. Oh, I see. It's changing color. I think that's going to confuse Zoom, Vincenzo.
Yeah, I'm
It's
trying
just
to
gonna
change.
give people an epileptic seizure.
Yeah, sorry. I'm
I
just
feel
trying
like
to change.
This level of festivity should be left for next week, shouldn't it?
For the Christmas episode.
Our Christmas
exactly.
episode, whatever that means. We're just going to have to listen to Home Alone and other things. But
and
today,
discuss
which I've been doing a lot.
Christmas
By the way.
soundtracks.
I've been doing that a lot. I've been listening to Home Alone a lot this week. I think I'm seeing it in the cinema, which I've never done, on Sunday because it's on at Picture House, which is exciting.
That's
But
cool.
like the original one or the reboot remake.
The original.
whatever it is.
There are no others beyond the second one. There's only two, and they both star Macaulay Culkin. Because there's a third and a fourth.
I've only seen the first one, so
Yeah, correct. Well, you've not seen the second one.
I haven't.
Oh, Vincenzo. It's
Never
got a great
ever.
cue. It's got a great cue where I think he goes from Carol of the Bells, which is in the first one, and then makes it into this kind of rock montage while he does up the house in New York. Do you remember that, Shane?
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's like...
I was going to say one of my favorite memories from Home Alone is actually from Seinfeld. There's an episode where Jerry comes in and George is watching Home Alone and he's crying. And Jerry says to him, "You're crying watching Home Alone?" And George is like, "The old man got to me." You know, the old man at the
With
end
the
of the
shovel.
first one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The guy who's
Also,
creepy
hello,
at
Lara.
first.
We've got Lara. Okay, we should
Hi,
probably
Lara.
get into something.
We should. Yeah, should we say what we're talking about today?
Yeah, we should. Sorry. Sorry.
Vincenzo,
No, go ahead,
you're
go ahead.
so distracted.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix. Like, there's very bad lighting, and this used to work.
It's
but now
okay.
it doesn't.
You've got a
Okay.
kind of Italian olive-skinned thing going on, I would say. It's not bad, poor lighting. It's complementary lighting.
Ah, okay. Very good.
Just leave
Anyway.
it. I've just got a cold light in my studio.
Yeah. So
Trailer music was the plan today, / taking things that aren't... Because we talk a lot about orchestration. We tend to lean that way, I think, in these streams. And so we also want to talk a bit about taking non-musical things and using them in a musical way, whether that be through processing, through sampling, through, whatever you can do with non-musical instruments, non-musical things, if that even exists, because this maybe disproves that. Me and Shane and I have I can't speak for Vincenzo, but me and Shane have been working on the same projects for the last year or so for a company that shall remain nameless, because we are going to play some of their tracks. And for me, at least, that's been a bit of an education. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Shane, that it's been hard because I certainly have more kind of orchestral human sensibilities with writing, and when you're writing trailer music, a lot of that goes out the window. Is that fair to say, Shane?
Sure. I mean, it's a different aesthetic, right? So you have to embrace all the different idiosyncrasies of that aesthetic and filter what you're doing through that lens of like, oh, I would normally do this, or I would normally think this is an appropriate choice, but I have to remember I'm in this world. So
yeah,
I have to make the inappropriate choice.
And it's taking, we've said before that, what you're writing needs a purpose, but the purpose of trailer music is so kind of distilled and so specific. It has one job, and it's to grab you by the scruff of the neck and drag you through 2 minutes of this thing that it's telling you to watch.
And it's also to be useful to the editor as a kind of a toolkit for them to create little sequences out of your music that work for the purposes of what they're making.
So you have to have what we were doing, the way we were doing.
You have to have in your track like a big riser and a big moment that cuts to silence so that they know, oh, we're going to use this, we're going to use that. So it does in a way make it a bit formulaic, which is a challenge.
Yes. Yes.
Did you
challenge.
Regarding this, did you guys actually have the lesson in college on this, like specifically on trailer music and how? Because I remember it was one of the most
exist at our time.
Ones.
No.
Oh, interesting.
So tell us about that. What's the theory? What did you learn?
First of all, let me close. I was keeping an eye on YouTube, but I will close Chrome because it's killing my connection, guys. So if anybody can,
you do feel a bit
for me
laggy.
Yeah, I'm trying to address that.
Anyway, it's Zoom trying to blur out your flashing Christmas tree. That's what it is.
It's working. Your computer's working as hard as it can.
Very good. Actually, hold on. This also may help. There you go. Now it should be better. It should be less laggy. Anyway, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So I remember that when we had that lesson, the kind of the biggest thing that I learned was about the fact that it should always be divided in 3 sections. Or at least I think so. I can't remember for sure. I don't remember
like
exactly how.
3-act structure. Yeah, we
followed that as well. A 3-act structure. Yeah, exactly. There should be like the introduction, the build up. No, or actually the build up, the main core, and the coda, or something like this. And they told us that it should be around 3 minutes, and that pretty much the cuts should happen around like 1 minute and 2 minutes, so it should be equally divided. And that's not just a cliche, a stylistic cliche, but it's actually a functional element of trailer music and of the track that you compose for this purpose, which is many times, they end up chopping different elements, different pieces from different trailer tracks. And so they may want to use the build up from a certain track, but then the main section from another trailer, and then the coda from a third one, or even just combine different elements, like the percussive elements of a certain trailer with, I don't know, like the electronics from another one. So like if it sort of lines up in that way, it's easy to combine, to sort of match different things and do the thing that you want. And I remember that so tying in with what we were saying at the beginning, so making non-musical elements musical, one of the examples that we listened to back in college and that struck me the most was a friend of our course head of department, which was giving us that lecture. A friend of this guy is apparently very big in trailer music, and our professor showed us one of his tracks, which was all based on like noises that you could find around. Actually, it was specifically made with phone noises, vibration, like slamming the phone on a table, dropping it on the ground, stuff like that. So this guy sampled all of these elements and built a track, which was like super interesting. Obviously, it also had like strings and other electronic elements, but like the core element of the track was all sounds recorded with a mobile phone. And it was very interesting. It was very refreshing. It was very original. And it was a lesson, a true lesson, because like I think trailer music is very easily stereotyped. Sorry, guys.
The wordsmith again coming out in you, Vincenzo.
There you go.
Stereotypified.
It's stereotypified. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be braggadocious about it. Anyway,
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
when Donald Trump. Don't you remember that when Donald Trump said braggadocious in an interview?
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Pure gold. Anyway, so I was saying it can be very easily stereotyped, and you know, the razors, the hit, and all of that. And I think that track in particular struck me because of how original it was and how it took elements and sound design and like very weird samples, and it made them into a very original and very beautiful track. And yeah, so
I think just on what you were saying there, that idea of taking a sound that is unique, or as unique as you can fathom. This is from someone who doesn't necessarily believe it's entirely possible, but taking something that's really unique as your hook, because that's really increasingly the key in trailers, not just if they're using the track on its own, or like you say, an editor is taking lots of tracks and stealing the best bits and using whatever's most appropriate. Having something that is the thing that you latch onto straight away, the identity, it's a form of branding essentially, isn't it? You're finding a way to immediately suck people in and be like, this is the sound world we're in, and this is the sound that you latch onto. That using sound design is a really effective way of doing that, and using certain audio processing to uniquify, to use a potential Vincenzoism, to use a Vincenzoism, is good too. What was I saying? Oh yeah, but yeah, it's about the hook of the track for me that justifies this sound design element, this found sound part of it. In your case, it sounds quite, this person who did a mobile phone track sounds pretty extreme, but that's a great way to do it. And you like you say, it can get so generic in trailer music that it's nice to aim for something less so. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, even the fact that you use the word hook there harkens back to the theory that trailer music is very much like the pop music equivalent, where it's got to be very short, very compressed. There should be nothing there that doesn't contribute to the overall idea. Very recognizable, very, very direct. And I think people are also, with the sound design part, which I guess we're talking about, using non-musical elements or using unique sounds, I think people are more open to hearing that kind of sound in that concept in the context of a trailer. Whereas you might not like, oh, this is a track from my new album and I've used like a squeaky gate.wav that's the hook. And it's like, you could do that, but it's like a little less at home in that domain, whereas it's quite at home in the trailer music domain.
For sure. I mean, there's clear tropes that are used for a reason. Loud music grabs you. Certain frequencies grab you. Bass makes you feel something, and these are why they're often prevalent in trailer music. But also, unique sounds appeal as well and grab you. So there's part of that. We've got a couple of questions, guys. Should we answer them?
Sure, go for it.
So Jolene's asking, when writing trailer music, it's easy to overcompose the track. Absolutely. I think I speak for Shane as well, but both of us struggled with that as well, and were constantly told to edit down. And how do you try to keep the format of trailer music? So, I mean, we were kind of alluding to when you say format, just clarify that for us, Jolene. Do you mean the form? So this 3-act structure that Vincenzo was talking about, because that is basically seems to be pretty gospel, not just in trailer music, but a lot of library as well. That you have your opening act that introduces the hook, sucks you in, second act that builds on that, and your bombastic third act. Like every trailer you've ever seen, it's the same structure visually as well. The edits get quicker at the end. You start to get completely bombarded with images, with sound, and then I think you mentioned it as well. There's the sort of optional coda that might go over the credits or over a more gentle, longer cut at the end. So these things I think are pretty gospel. There are some elements that I think are really useful to stick to. One of our colleagues in the trailer stuff, Shane, I think it was probably our friend Bryce, who said a really good idea to have a little hit at the very beginning, just as a springboard. The editors love that. The main thing to remember as well is, although, I mean, V, you mentioned trying to stick to sort of approximately 1 minute acts or 1 minute sections. That's about right. But as well, you are in charge of the edit. When you're writing library trailer music, you are dictating where the video editor cuts the video, not the other way around. For the most part, you need to be bold with your choices. You can mess about a bit with phrase structure if you like, and things like that. I think in terms of so in terms of form, I think that's it really. You need to not shy away from drops in the music completely disappearing. Plenty of rises, as Shane said. Make those interesting. Do funny things to them to make them cool. And apart from that, you're sort of getting into more sort of musical content, really. But any other thoughts on the form, guys? Beyond that, I mean, it's essentially that 3-act structure is the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think, well, maybe I don't know exactly what Jolene was asking, but my interpretation of her question was that it's easy to overcompose. I mean, I felt that as well in terms of like not only horizontally, like wanting to have the music develop and maybe move through different keys. No, don't move through different keys, or maybe have different like musical things that we like to do as composers, and also vertically having too many layers, too many different ideas going on. I think it is really about stripping down to the bare bones, making the very best, most polished form of each idea and not having anything extraneous. And I mean, honestly, it's a good skill to have, to edit your own music. I mean, this is something that I feel like it's easy to not do. Like you see it in literature. Some books are just way too long and the bad, boring bits haven't been cut out. You see it in movies, you see it in every domain. And like, I think it's a useful challenge actually writing trailer music to just say, only the good things can stay in this track. Only the really compelling things that really capture the audience are allowed to stay. Everything else must go. But it's easy to want to overcompose or to try and do too much because you're trying to make this great track or whatever. So you want to put lots of things in there, but it's actually just about refining down to the bare bones.
Yeah, and
I think
sorry, V. Jolene's just asked
go ahead.
About transposing, and that's an absolute no-no, isn't it? Transposing in trailer music is probably a no-go, I would say.
It makes things more difficult for the editor, because what if they want to like cut a bar that you used to transpose in? Now it doesn't make sense musically anymore, whereas it might just kind of be okay, work as a music edit if it's all in the one key. It gives them less capability, and especially if you're delivering them
transposing in as in modulating, you mean?
Yeah, modulating. Yeah.
So modulating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I was going to say the other thing we were talking about is if you're delivering like different stems, like, oh, this is my percussion stem, this is my synth bass, this is my melody or whatever, and they chop and change and do a music edit, and it's going to make their lives more difficult if different parts of it are in different keys, or if they're in the same key or the same harmonic progression, they can mix and match more easily. So you're kind of hurting your chances to be used as a toolkit if you modulate, and you'll probably just get rejected way before delivery time anyway.
Yeah, you basically need to get out of the mindset that you're writing a piece of music. As Shane said earlier on,
but in
the nicest possible way. It's not to take away from the skills required, but you aren't writing something that is going to be taken and plopped in front of a video because it fits to the edits. That's not what's happening. You're writing, as Shane said earlier, a toolkit that provides a musical identity for something, and then things get moved around, things get chopped up, things get stripped back completely. The stems are incredibly important, and the alt mixes are incredibly important in the track that you're creating. It's really, and that's why what Shane said earlier is really important about not having anything kind of extraneous or stuff that doesn't serve a purpose specifically for that. If you start really trying to use, overusing counterpoint, for example, is something I did the other day and got called out on a track, and it's that's where it's like, well, this is confusing to the ear or distracting to the person watching the trailer, and you mustn't be distracting. You need to be grabbing their hand and dragging them through it, musically speaking, but never turning their head away from what they're absorbed in for those 2 minutes. Sorry, V, you were going to say something.
No, I was just saying, it's interesting because probably nothing else as in trailer music, the true imperative is like its functionality. It needs to be functional. And it's interesting what you were saying. You need to stop thinking about the fact that you're writing a piece of music because you kind of aren't, because like it literally needs to completely serve the purpose of grabbing you. I mean, it's a trailer. The purpose of it is like convincing people to go watch the freaking movie. And so it needs to be as so compelling and so captivating that either something is 150% functional and really spot on, or like it doesn't belong there. So it's really interesting. I think it's probably the kind of sub genre, sub era within film music where it really needs to fit the purpose and the images, which ironically are not there yet because they're going to be put over. It's as if you need to think about the images when they aren't there yet. So probably this is kind of like the tricky thing.
Yeah,
it's very interesting in a way.
Just to continue on that, I mean, Laura's asking about more specific genre pieces, for example, Christmas movies, which rely on soaring melodies and stuff. I think we're not necessarily saying avoid melodic content, Laura. I think, certainly for Christmassy things, I think you can still write something that is melody driven, and that can be part of the hook that drags you in. I think what we're saying is, as a composer, you want to develop an idea, or you want to make it more intriguing through certain musical devices like modulation, like counterpoint, like harmonic progression changes, things like that. That's when it becomes an issue when you're watching the trailer and when an editor wants to be able to use it to create the trailer. I think it's still, a melody is still absolutely valid. I think it's almost essential in almost all types of trailer music. But it's just you have to strip it back to its most empirical stuff, the music that you're writing. Before we forget, because it's getting down to the bottom of the chat as well, you asked another question earlier about royalties. Does it make a difference if a track of yours is 10 seconds or 1 minute? You guys might know more than me. The short answer from me is I don't think so. The long answer from me is I don't know. I think
I don't 100% know, but my idea to this, I believe, is you'll get paid based on whatever amount of the track was used. You could have a 10-minute track. If they use 10 seconds, they'll pay you the same as if they use 10 seconds of a 10-second track. It's all about how much they use.
Right, because I don't know this. I imagine because you're potentially providing different lengths of tracks or alt mixes, they will license whichever one they want, or it's possible that the company might license them as a package. I don't know, but they're licensing you for the use of that track, as far as I'm aware. In which case, I'm not sure it does affect the amount that you earn. Do you see what I mean? Because you've written the track and they take the stems and mixes of that track of that length. So I guess you're earning whatever the license fee is, whatever some of the royalties they have paid for that licensing fee for that length of track, but that will differ from the amount they have to pay for the.
I think those are two different things, though, aren't they? From what I remember, which is not much.
You mean the royalty collection versus the license fee? You mean?
I think so. Like the upfront fee, if there's one, the licensing fee, and then the royalties, because the royalties are definitely based on the amount of time which is used.
Yeah.
Because as Shane was saying.
Yeah, sorry, I thought that's what we were talking about.
No, that you're. Yes, I'm the one muddying the waters here, guys, because I don't know, but I'm just trying to fathom how they
divvy up the upfront fee.
No,
I think it's safe. It's safe for us to say the three of us don't know, so we just don't know.
PRS, no. PRS.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be PRS, right? Because that would be the royalty. It would be whomever, like the trailer music company from which they purchase, like the library company from which they purchase the license. Right. I don't know.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe.
There you go.
We don't know.
We don't know. Sorry, Laura.
But to go back to the thing about I had something to say about the Christmas movie trailer thing. I think it's not the case that you should, like Sam said, you shouldn't be afraid of like, oh, I can't have a melody, I can't have anything compelling or that suits the genre or whatever. Absolutely, you still can, and I think that's still a requirement. But it's just like whatever melody you have should be stated like pop music in the most clear and direct way possible. You want 100% of the audience to be on board with you, and you're like holding their hand and saying, this is the melody, and they're like, yes, this is the melody. Rather than if you can imagine having the same melody being like, oh, the first time you hear it, it's against like a pedal, or it's harmonized in a weird way, so that later on when you hear the full harmonization of it, it's that much more compelling. Like those kinds of techniques that use, that sacrifice something now, or not necessarily sacrifice, but like recontextualize something now so that later on there's a payoff. Those kind of things don't work so well because there's no time for that, and there's no guarantee you're going to get that, because like Vincenzo said, they may only use the first 15 seconds of yours and then something else. So for whatever time you're speaking musically, you want to be as direct and appeal to as many members of the audience as possible and be as compelling as possible. Yeah.
I think it's a form of arrangement, isn't it? I mean, it's like with any library track, you're finding a way to distill the brief in the allotted time that you have. So it's like if you were given a task of imitate John Williams, or imitate a Christmas film, whatever. You study the essential elements of that. But for trailer music, I think we're just saying that it has to be super accessible, and at the same time, when I say accessible, I mean I don't mean super simple. I mean just each element just hits you very specifically. Do you know what I mean? And so you have to distill all the elements of, in this case, Christmas music down. So you're going to be using like bells, you're going to use Celeste, you're going to be using soaring violins, like you talk about, things like that, delicate woodwinds and stuff like that. It's still an option to do that. It's just you can't over-egg the Christmas pudding, as it were. Does that? I think that makes sense.
Christmas pudding.
Yeah.
Is there egg in Christmas pudding? Probably.
love that expression. Is it worth mentioning a trend which is kind of I don't know if it's becoming more popular, but surely in the last few years I've noticed it a bit more than I used to, which is the use of pop songs, of rearranged pop songs or cover songs in trailer music. And I'm two things are like sticking out to me. One is the trailer for The Matrix, like the new Matrix film, which is like an amazing trailer. Like that to me is a truly awesome trailer. I am very skeptical about the film, but the trailer looks fantastic. And another one that I remember is Gemini Man, which some of us may remember.
What was the song for that one?
I'm trying to think. It was a very famous song, but it was very cool the way I think they were using just the vocal parts from that song. Didn't?
Yeah. Well, because The Matrix is Bob Dylan, isn't it? I think.
No, the Jefferson Airplane.
No.
Oh, sorry, no.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, exactly.
There's another trailer that's Bob Dylan that's come out recently.
There you go.
But yes, the answer is yes. There is an absolute trend, and we've been asked to do that.
I mean, it's come to the point where it's become like a meme. It's way overdone.
You know what? It started with
You've
the
been
John
asked to-
Lewis Christmas advert. That's my theory.
Really?
Every
Okay.
year, Christmas adverts would use a pop song that had been arranged for a female vocalist, slowed down, and the trailers have just been doing it since. This is like a while back now, but like it's definitely a thing, and it's definitely demand for it, and we're being asked to do it.
So
We need a
this is very
musicologist
interesting.
to research the history of this trend.
Yeah.
According to Sam,
What have you been asked to do, Sam? I'm very curious about this. Like
Pick a
they
song and
sent
arrange
you.
No,
Really?
pick a song. We've been given suggestions, but we've been told.
I mean, I think the point is that it's in demand because it is a trend and that sort of
It's-
thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly
You're
what
right to have
you're
noticed
supposed
it,
to-
Chanzo.
Yeah, you're right.
But sorry, just out of curiosity, you've been asked to arrange it as in also record like the vocal parts, or was it just oh, wow, that's very interesting. I
Not
had
myself.
no idea No, but I
do
think
that.
it's interesting because like I didn't realize it had gotten like to this point where they actually ask you to do that.
Yeah.
I thought that when that happened, it was more like, you know, when they do the trailer for, I don't know, a Star Wars film, they commission it specifically. So they take the themes from Star Wars and they rearrange them and in a trailer way. So I thought that when they wanted to use a pop song, it was like, oh, okay, so we want to use that song and they commission it to somebody. I didn't think it had gotten also into library trailer music. So let's do this.
But it just makes perfect sense, right, Chanzo? Because like
it does.
If you want that and someone's already done it, then you don't have to commission them.
Absolutely.
You just say, "Oh, great!
Absolutely.
Someone already has done." Like there's a great parody of all of this on YouTube. I forget the title of the video, but it's like every trailer ever or whatever, and it's like quiet piano note with a boom, and then it's like you spin me right round, baby, right round, and then it's like that whole thing. You've probably seen the video, but
I
it's
think
like,
I've
it's
seen it,
become a
actually.
meme because it's so overdone.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, overdone is not a negative in library music. It just shows demand, and this is maybe why there's it's a contentious thing. But we were told if there's a song you want to do, tell us, arrange it, and then we'll think about getting the rights to it. It's literally like get it done, and then we'll get the rights. It's like that kind of thing.
This is like super interesting too. The fact that they told you do it first, and then we'll see about the rights.
I think like while you're writing it, I don't know quite when they would sort it, but like you do not have the rights before you start writing the arrangement. But they, fairly confident they'll get it depending on the song. I mean, if you like start arranging Beyonce or something, it's probably a bit more difficult. But I think they specifically wanted like there's definitely a phase of like retro. So like 50s and 60s songs, and definitely 80s as well, actually, getting redone. Because like if you take 80s as well, there's a lot of 80s set films. I think since Stranger Things as well that have come out of late.
I was literally thinking about the trailer for Stranger Things, that one that used Thriller from Michael Jackson. And like when that trailer came out, I mean, I love Michael Jackson and I listen to a lot of Michael Jackson music, but when that trailer came out, it was like so compelling and so well done, because like it literally did a mashup of like different section of the song. And like I just kept listening to Thriller for a month or so when that trailer came out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely.
I think
definitely a thing.
this is also the appeal. As we were saying, a trailer needs to be appealing. A trailer needs to grab you and make you want to see the movie. And I think part of the reason why using pop songs works really well is that most of the times are like they're really famous songs and songs that we know. And when you hear them in a trailer, it's just like it triggers you, and it's very compelling. It grabs you. It's very catchy. So maybe
it also has lots of like extra musical connotations. So you're like, oh, I remember when I used to listen to this song as a teenager, and it's like, all that stuff. But I think it's not new to use a popular song in a trailer. I imagine that's probably been going on for as long as trailers have. But this thing within the last, who knows, 5 or 10 years, whatever, of taking it and doing a new arrangement of it that is particularly like dark and slowed down and atmospheric and brooding.
It's taking double meanings in the lyrics as well is an important thing. Is like these songs have a context from when they were released, but if if you take a some song from the 50s that's like, I don't know, Motown, I don't have one in mind, don't ask me.
Well, you can just use the example Chenzo brought up of the White Rabbit, because in the Matrix there's Follow the White Rabbit and there's the Tattoo of the White Rabbit, and the song is called and mentions White Rabbit and Alice.
There's a lot of that, and there's a lot of like horror ones where it's like a love song from the 60s, and then it's turned into darkened and made into that kind of thing.
I keep thinking, Sam, since you mentioned Beyonce, I keep thinking, if you like Jane, should have put a ring on it.
No, but for the ring.
Put a ring with a massive riser underneath. Guys, we should make that trailer track. We should take that song and turn it into it would be amazing.
Great. Oh, we should have done it for the Lord of the Rings 20th anniversary.
Oh,
perfect. Oh well,
that would have been so good.
And like recut sequences of like Gollum like looking at the ring.
Exactly. And then the hobbits doing the dance. Should we listen to some music, guys?
Yes, let's listen
Laura's
to some
getting
music.
It's been requested.
Well. Yeah. Shane, should we listen to yours?
Sure.
Shall we also say that if Lara or Jeline or anybody watching wants to send some music, some trailer music that they like or that they compose, would be super happy to listen to it and discuss about it. So
please do.
Feel free to send in stuff, guys.
Your Move, was it called?
Sure.
Let's go for that.
Sorry, I'm just grabbing some water. Give me a second.
Oh, actually, I'll open it in quick time. Very slowly.
Sam, are we hearing it through Zoom? Like me and Shane? Are you sharing audio from your end?
No.
Do you want to share audio?
I was going to just listen on the stream.
If you listen on the stream, dude.
Because hold on, then.
I'm going to be
Why
difficult.
Why is it opened in iTunes? It never does that.
Because it's an AIFF file.
Oh god. Things are going wrong. Things are going wrong, guys. Very wrong. I never have iTunes open.
Hold on, I need to.
I literally had to force quit iTunes. I'm so sorry. That was bad. I'm just going to do a thingy thing. Okay, right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready? Okay, good. Here we
Let's go.
Okay, guys. Nice
Guys,
one.
there was. Is this Shane's track or your
Shane's.
track?
It's
Shame,
mine.
Oh, man.
Nice one,
Please
Kate.
don't play.
Although I
Please don't
Listen
play my
to it
tracks
now.
later, Sam. I feel
listen to it now.
I don't want my.
I love Shane that you. Firstly, can I say that your strings sound better than mine, and it makes me sick.
It's because of Kate.
Also,
It's all because
well
of Kate.
done, Kate. But also,
Kate,
you've kept.
Kate made.
I'd say like this one. This is for Drama Queen album, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the idea of this. So I mean, do you want to say it, Shane? What this album?
Well, no, I was just going to
was?
say, I'm feeling bad because everything I said about like not having unnecessary sections and like keeping it clear, I did not do that in some spots in that. But it's hard, guys, basically. No, but so the kind of the rough commission for this thing, this track is called Your Move. I had in mind something like Queen's Gambit for a kind of like period drama sort of thing. There's a lot of big drums and risers and stuff in there. But actually, the version that I would have preferred to submit doesn't have some of those things. It's more string based. But as we said earlier, with many of these trailer tracks, you submit multiple different versions, and so one of them had no drums, one of them had big drums and synths and risers, and so like, yeah. But the rough brief was a kind of period-esque drama, kind of TV series for strings. That was kind of the brief.
Yeah, the idea exactly is that it was strings led, and I think you definitely made the most of that. I think it really makes the best use of strings, and I think the strings in particular sound great in that. Sorry, go on, V.
I was also a huge fan of the percussion work. It was like very lively, very vibrant, very cinematic and trailer style, like in your face, big, epic. I'm gonna book a private session with you, Professor, because like I don't know, I have no clue of like what libraries to use, what plugins to use to mix, like how to make my percussion sound so bombastic. I have no idea. You need
to get Damage.
I have Damage, but I can't make it sound that way.
Damage 2.
You need to.
Because Damage 2 was a game changer for me. I think you told me, didn't you, Shay? Probably did.
Yeah, I did get it in the end. I used it on this track though. This track I didn't use it, I don't think. But yeah.
Anyway, Shane, you're gonna have to teach me how to make such amazing.
This was before the Damage purchase.
Damage was a game changer for me because I was constantly trying to get that kind of slightly a distorted sound in the drums, that kind of not quite not quite human, but played in a human way. I think Damage is just really good at getting that trailer sound basically out of the box. As much as one should get used to one samples, Damage was so easy to get that sound when you play.
Guys, I'm still on Damage 1.
Well, Damage 1 isn't percussion specific, is it? Or is it?
No, it is. It is.
It is.
You probably get a cheaper cross grade, but you can probably achieve a lot of the same results. I would say like distortion and saturation are good, and then stereo width and panning things out and layering a lot are kind of the main things to look at.
For sure. Yeah.
Sounded brilliant, man.
Do you want to? Shall we? I mean, I'm happy to play mine as well for a different album.
Sure.
Want to do that?
Yeah, just before we do, we've had a question from Lara. Also, everyone's congratulating Kate. Yes, amazing playing from Kate. Which, by the way, it's no, please, it's all her. That was not a very idiomatic part that I wrote. Did
it take editing? Let's be honest. Did it take
a little bit of editing? Well, yeah, just because,
You've got to be so.
Trailer music is like that. Everything has to be super chopped up and super on the beat, and it's like pop music. They do the same thing. Even the best pop vocalists in the world, like Dua Lipa or whatever, they go in and they chop and they move. I know because I've watched Ian Kirkpatrick sessions where he goes in and breaks open those Dua Lipa tracks, and they are refined to the nth degree. And I think it's the same kind of philosophy in trailer music. But yeah, so just a question from Lara. I know the trailer business is separate from film music. Does it ever happen that the producers approach a trailer composer because they want their soundtrack and the style of the track? I think it's plausible. I don't know that it happens that often, but if someone's made their name as like like a heavy trailer music producing person with really intense, really in your face kind of sounds, and then someone comes along looking for that kind of sound, then it could be a marriage made in heaven. I mean, a guy I used to work for, Daniel James, has done a lot of trailer music and a lot of like epic hybrid music. And I know he's gotten booked on some gigs, maybe because of that, because of being able to deliver those sounds. So I think showing that you can deliver a certain product and then having people who want that product to come to you seems great. But in terms of actually like making a score, there isn't necessarily an overlap in skill set. I don't know.
I mean, I agree. I think, the short answer is that the work can come from anywhere. If someone has taken a liking enough to something, they'll find out who did it and ask them. But I think it's like anything; it can come from anywhere. I suspect it's not that common.
Although what might happen is like those cues, like the Max Richter, on The Nature of Daylight, or any of these other like massive cues that get used. There's that other one from the film about the sun. What is it called? Help me, guys.
A film about the sun.
You mean Sunshine?
I think so. Yeah.
With Danny Boyle.
With Danny Boyle, yeah. Isn't there a track from the soundtrack to that was used in the mid 2000s everywhere?
Requiem for a Dream by Clint Mansell.
Oh,
right. So I'm sure there's been the situation like that where a particular track that is trailer friendly. Wait, Requiem from a Dream is not from that film, but.
No, but you mean that one.
Whatever. It really doesn't matter for the point we're making. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But I'm sure there's the case that like someone's cue or track that is particular trailer friendly has been used all over the place, and then that composer has been booked for gigs off of the back of that. I can definitely see that as very plausible.
I'm sure.
Sorry, just a random thought there.
No, I think that's absolutely right. But Requiem for a Dream, like Laura says, it was particularly in the noughties. Because I remember it being on the Two Towers trailer as well. It was on everything. Clint Mansell did very well out of that. Cool. Should we play another one?
Yeah, the track I'm thinking of is called Adagio in D minor by John Murphy. That is the track from Sunshine I'm thinking of. Well, Requiem from a Dream is from a different film. Yes.
The film.
Is it actually? Yes. Is the track from the film? Ah, okay. I thought they just happened to have the same.
I've always assumed so. But yeah, he did the score to the Darren Aronofsky film about drug addicts, and then it just got used in a bunch of trailers. Cool. We've got time for one more. Let's do it.
I'll listen to yours too.
Here we go. So this is a different album. We'll talk about it after. Mute myself. Bear with me. Muting myself.
Hold on. Nice.
Okay. So that was for a fantasy sort of adventure album, and I strongly dislike the string sound. Strongly, I think it
Why
sounds like
so?
a. I think it sounds like a room full of mosquitoes. Yeah, I just think like they've basically the thing is like we this is one thing that I've really had to get used to in the last year or so of doing this. Bear in mind I didn't mix this, so you know I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I don't like it because I like things to sound like a room full of people. And to me, they've had to make so much room in the mix for the strings that they've cut out all of the warmth from it. And I don't know
Mm.
if you guys agree with that, but like for me, the strings sounded so like reedy and.
Yeah, to
Um,
me, it's just they sounded very bright. Like there was a lot of boost
yeah,
to the high end, so much so that it actually started to transform the timbre of the instrument to something quite unrealistic.
yeah,
There's that
which is
thing.
entirely my fault in the writing. I think, honestly, in
Well, not
hindsight,
necessarily.
because it's thick in the middle, and it's very difficult to mix that. I think in hindsight, I would have written it differently.
But it gets better.
But
I had the impression that it was mainly in the beginning. Maybe I would just got used to it, but in the beginning it was definitely noticeable. It sounded a bit buzzy, a bit reedy. But I think it improves towards like halfway and onwards. It
well,
sounded a bit better. I don't know. Maybe it was again was an impression. Maybe where I was getting used to the peculiarity of the sound.
that's what you want. You got 2 minutes to get used to it. But anyway, the point. Anyway, so trailer music. What's it got in it? Big drums again. That's what it's got in it. I think that must
Yeah.
have been damage in that. Yeah, I'm fairly sure it was.
But also, I mean, we were talking about it earlier, soaring melodies. I mean, this was like profoundly melodic. And
Yeah,
actually, I was going to ask you if it was for a fantasy thing, because like I think you really nailed kind of like the targets, the brief. I
yes.
could definitely see this for an epic fantasy. I don't know if they ever make an epic film out of Zelda. I think this could be a cool track for it.
Oh, thank you. So yeah,
Had
I
a
had
kind of
dragons and stuff in mind.
had the kind of the compound 12/8 or 680 kind of pirate fantasy feel to it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, that's the idea. But big brass, big drums. But in terms of the sort of form that we were talking about earlier, I think yours had plenty of this as well, Shane. That there's like plenty of edit points. So what, like I personally, I can't speak for Shane, but like in the music there for me, that felt like I was constantly stumbling because there's like bars, gap, and but they're purely edit points, and they're really useful for trailer editors. Um, yeah, and stuff like that. One thing I would say, maybe worth talking about in the last few minutes, is how to make things sound massive as a thing that needs to be done almost exclusively with trailers. Do you guys have any tips for that?
Well, I
How to make
think
things.
like just from a production like programming point of view, don't be afraid to max out on like whatever your sample's loudest modulation value is, like 127. When the time comes, use it. Layer multiple different like this library's trombone patch with that library's trombone patch. Like try and make a blend of of them to get like you're going for loudness and you're going for thickness, even if it's like not really realistic anymore, because it's like this hyper real sound that we're going for. Larger than life is really the aesthetic of everything. So layering drums, layering orchestra, layering synths as and when. Like I especially find like short strings layered with like a short synth sound. What I sort of do is like a kind of a poly synth sound. Um, just copy paste your MIDI data from your short strings into that poly synth. And then what I do is I just turn the synth down to 0 and then bring it up until like I can just barely hear it and then pull it down a little bit. So basically you're not really hearing it, but it is like imbuing your short string samples with like a thickness of a synth background. That's
Yeah.
another technique for making things sound big. stereo width, having something like all the way left and all the way right makes it sound massive. That's an old like pop music guitar trick. You like record the guitar twice, one hard left, one hard right. But the same thing applies with drums or whatever. And then like distortion and saturation, when used responsibly, can be good.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, even what Jolene was saying about the mixing, like, I mean, you didn't mix yours and you have some problems with it. I mixed mine. I also have some problems with it. This type of music is incredibly hard to mix well. I don't really feel that I know what I'm doing.
No, I'm definitely a backseat mixer in that I know what I don't like, but I don't know how to get what I like. So please, you know, I'm sorry if I sound negative about my mix. I think someone who knows what they're doing has taken this and done it. But like it is extremely difficult, especially. This is what I was getting at. Excuse me. This is what I was getting at about how it was written. This is why I think yours was so impressive, Shane, is that you had that clarity still to it, whereas mine, I think, struggles with a bit of like the mixer has clearly struggled a bit to find space for everything, and that's why the strings have ended up a bit wiry. And for me, the brass are a bit muddy because they're stuck, kind of not being able to get raspy and. You know, stuff like that, and it's very difficult, and it is to mix that, and so it's important to think in those terms when you start writing as well.
Yeah, it's one of the consequences of what I just said, like all these little tricks to make things sound hyper real and big and massive and everything is, yes, you need to do that in order to achieve that sound, but the debt you have to pay is that when it comes to mixing, you've introduced lots of phase issues and frequency masking issues, and now you have like 10 times the tracks that you need to balance. So it's really a challenge. So
just before we start wrapping up, you mentioned distorting responsibly. I've been very irresponsible with that of late, and by that I mean obsessed with it, because ever since I bought the Sound Toys Bundle 5, which was probably until very recently on another sale, as it often is. If you don't have it, get it. I can't recommend it enough. It is so useful. And I've been using, for something like this, I would heavily overuse the Decapitator.
And
the Devil Lock is very useful as well as a simple one. And for things like risers, so both of them are kind of heavy compression distortion tools, right?
I think the Devil Lock is like a type of saturator, but yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Yeah,
it basically makes it sound proper meaty. And then for things like risers, if you want, you can use like a tremolator. is really useful for that. To kind of chop into something to give it rhythm, or Pan Man, that one is specifically very good, but finding a way to give movement to things is also important. Though, as Shane said, keeping that kind of symmetry is also very important, because you don't want to be pulling people's ears in one direction. But yeah, definitely getting some plugins that allow a bit of creativity are really good, I think, and certainly at that initial stage of finding the hook. That's really good. But if you're writing stuff like this, the epic stuff, big brass, big drums, then they're really valuable to make them just sound fat AF. Yeah, we've had some requests, guys. Laura's wanting to be Hermione Granger. I'm listening to Harry Potter 5 at the moment. I'm going to listen to it on my way home.
What did Lara say?
She says she feels like being Hermione Granger. She wants to write a trailer track for next week, and I say, please go for it. We're sort of half planning a Christmassy thing, but whatever that means. So
if you want to chuck a trailer track into the mix, why not?
We want to listen to some stuff. So yes, absolutely do it for next week.
Yeah, your suggestion as well, Laura, of using a guitar amp emulator or simulator, or whichever it is. That works well too. It's the same sort of idea.
Yes, please do, Jolene, as well. Yes.
One thing also that I find quite useful when designing these sorts of sounds is, just as a general principle, don't be afraid as well to like have a sound and then apply a plugin to it and then like actually print that out as an audio file and then apply like another plugin to that rather than using it all the same signal chain. Because what you can then do is like chop stuff up and change the envelope on it in between the layers of the plugin and stuff like that. So it gives you more flexibility. Anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm doing that a lot of late on Cubase. The sort of,
the bounce in place or
stuff.
render in place. It's really, really good for that. Yeah.
It's really helpful for sure.
Lara's idea is very nice, like to write a little trailer track. I think next week we could do a little like section at the end of the stream where we can listen. If you want to write a track, Lara, I second your proposition. I ship your idea. I support this initiative.
I don't know what's happening, Vincenzo, but you're saying all sorts of words.
Yeah, no, I like Lara's idea. Lara's idea to write a little trailer track for next week and compare it. I most definitely won't have time to do that, but I think it'd be interesting to, like, if you want to do it, Lara, and if Julien wants to do it, and if anybody who's watching wants to do it, we can do a little like 1 week trailer track. Sort of
or we can
comparison.
send a reminder as well. We'll definitely have to do that. We want to listen to your music next week, so yeah, absolutely, and maybe some Home Alone as well. As a palate cleanser between trailer tracks,
and some Frozen because it's Christmas. And
Frozen,
you gotta listen to it.
And Die Hard.
Let it go, and which is a Christmas movie, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely, the best Christmas movie.
So next week, final stream for the season. Which has gone by in a blink of an eye, and we're gonna be wrapping it up, and what's there to say?
Nothing. I'll be at my mummy and daddy's. I think we're missing Mike at least, aren't we? Because he'll be
missing me because I will. All things going well, I will be on a plane.
Oh, of course, yes. Hope
on
that's
the long 24-hour flight to Australia.
Both you and Mike are gonna be on a train. Actually, well, I mean, maybe we should talk about this internally and put a post out. But if there's lots of people being on a flight at the time of the stream next week, we could even like postpone of like 1 day or something like that. I don't know. Let's see if it's worth it. We'll have to see. Let's discuss that. Let's discuss and see. Let's discuss.
Disgust. I'm getting disgusted.
What was the one at the beginning? Brugalistic? Bruggalicious.
Braggadocious.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
But that's not my own word. I took that from the Donald.
It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
It is a real word, right?
I mean,
braggadocious. No, it's not. No, braggadocious. It's not a real word.
Anything you make up is a real word. I'm just enjoying the words that you're giving us today. There's a lot of superb ones.
I thought braggadocious wasn't a word.
Maybe
and like
it's
that
not.
was the
Anyway,
whole...
this is so uninteresting. Let's end the stream.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, cool. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.
See you next
week.